Awesome. Okay, so tonight's topic is managing money solo. And ironically, I was on LinkedIn today and I came across a post that I found really interesting. And it was about living single and breaking down the numbers. And it was a friend of mine who I don't see her, but she said she was going to attend tonight. But she shared it. And I wanted to break down the numbers with you and see if it resonates or if it's kind of exactly your situation, because people don't understand how hard it is to have just one income. So in the post, basically, I mentioned what it's like to live on an $80,000 a year salary. Now, I remember when making $100,000 a year was like, oh my God, once I make $100,000, that's it, I've made it. Every person that I know who currently makes $100,000, if you ask them if they feel rich, they're going to tell you, I don't feel rich. I don't feel rich. Now, 80 in the post, it said what it's like to live on $80,000 a year. This is gross. So, we have varying incomes here, but $80,000 in Montreal standards is a pretty good salary. That's the feedback that I get. So what is it like to live on 80,000? If you're making $80,000 a year, that means you're netting about 55,500 a year. So that's after income taxes, QPP. I haven't included any employer deductions. So that comes out to about $55,700 a year net, which comes out to biweekly about $2,100 biweekly. So let's see some of the basic expenses that people will have. Number one, rent or mortgage. If you're renting, whether you have a mortgage or you're renting, and you're paying $1,200 a month, that comes out to 14,400. They put all these numbers in the chat after. You probably pay for internet and cell phone, which is about $200 a month, maybe cable, but let's just call it $200 a month, which is another 2,400 a year. And groceries, I was really conservative, $100 a week, $400 a month. That leaves you net with $34,000 a year. So I only covered your rent or mortgage at 1,200 if that's what you're paying, 2,400 for internet and cell, and your groceries. I haven't accounted for anything else. Now, if you take one vacation a year, might be about $2,000. You go to an all-inclusive for one person, a nicer one, maybe it's about $2,000 a year. And then I added personal expenses for $200 a month, maybe some clothes, maybe you get your hair done, your nails done, whatever it is. I added on another $200 a month, which is 2,400. So after one vacation and $200 a month for the year, that leaves you with $30,000. What if you have a car payment? See, in all of this, I haven't even included a car payment. Car payment plus insurance, and I haven't even included gas or repairs. It's about $600 a month, $7,200 a year. That leaves you with about $22,000 a year, which leaves you with about an extra $1,800 a month as cash flow. I know I just threw a lot of numbers. I stole this from the post, but that is basically what it is to live on 80,000 a year. And I was conservative with my numbers. I know that rent and mortgage could be higher. I know that groceries could be higher. I know that, some people take more than one vacation a year. I haven't accounted any other deductions. Let's say you have at work, like insurance or RSP contributions. This is very basic. So how do people live on one income? That's the question. So I'm going to go over some tips, some steps to follow. It's not something that you haven't heard already, but maybe you need to hear it, for the 27th time before it kind of registers. So number one, what's your balance sheet? What's your financial statement? Or what's your budget? Nobody likes this word. Nobody likes the word budget, but you need to know how much money you're bringing in and how much you're putting out. You have to know. And the only way to know is if you keep track. And again, people don't like doing this. This is like financial planning 101. your balance sheet or your financial statement, I'm all about business. So those are terms when you have a business. For me, I always look at my personal finances and run my personal finances as if I'm the CEO of my personal life Inc. So sometimes I use the phrase, be CEO of you Inc. So, visually imagine yourself at the head of a conference table at a board of directors and you are CEO. What's your balance sheet like? This is your business. These are your personal finances. You are CEO of you Inc. What money is coming in? What money is going out? You have to keep track, and you have to keep track on a regular basis. So you can't start, look, we're in the month of March. You can't start in the month of March and, April 1st comes, you're like, I did it. I know what my numbers are. No, because as we know, certain times of the year, we spend more than other times. January, historically speaking, is a time when people don't spend a lot of money. Number one, we're usually broke after Christmas. But number two, it's just the weather. We're here in Montreal. It's kind of cold and gray. We don't want to go out. So you have to, on a regular basis, keep track. Everyone always asks me how, like, what's the best way to do it? You have to do it in a way that comes natural to you. So some people swear by technology and apps and platforms. There are plenty of apps that are out there that you could use to help you keep track. Some people swear by Excel. You could create an Excel sheet to keep track of your money in, money out. Some people, like myself, I have an old school ledger. Everything is pen and paper. But you have to come up with a system that you're going to use so that you can start keeping track of what money is coming in and what money is going out. And the point of this is to know where your money goes. So I've shared this story before because I'm transparent. Back in 2021 was one of my best financial years. But when I did my numbers for 2021, I really took entertainment to a next level. And if I didn't keep track, I wouldn't have known. I would have just been spending and saying, oh my God, where's my money go? I don't know where my money is going, but I keep track. And this is something that I've incorporated as a daily routine for me. For those who've attended before, my routine is still the same. My husband and I get up in the morning, we put on a cup of coffee, we turn on the TV and watch our BNN and our CNBC, and we do our money in, money out for the day before. Sometimes it takes 5 seconds. Sometimes, especially, after a long weekend where we've partied a lot and gone to a lot of restaurants, sometimes it takes a little bit longer because we forget things. But we do this every day and it's incorporated with our daily routine so it doesn't become a chore. And again, the point of this is to know where our money goes. And going back to, my realization, my epiphany moment in 2021, I knew where my money was going, but I didn't have a number to it. And there's something about having a number to it that makes it tangible, that makes you freak out a bit. So what I do is I keep track of everything. I total everything monthly, but I don't do like a year end until like end of November, December. So all year long, I knew that I was spending a lot, but I didn't care. Let's have a good time. You only live once and doing well. But then when I saw how much I was spending, like at the end of November when I had totaled up my year, I was so embarrassed by it. 2022 came and I'm like, that's not how I want to spend my money. I work too hard. So you have to keep track because you have to know what your money habits are. A lot of people say, oh, I spend a lot of money on Amazon. It's so easy. Ha 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 ha. Well, how much do you spend on Amazon? Is it $25 a month? Is it $300 a month? How much are you spending? What's the number? Same thing with like Uber Eats and Skip the Dishes. These are all easy expenses. Another easy expense are all these like Klarna and Affirm, how you could purchase something and pay it off interest free in 4 installments. The idea of it is good, except if you're buying everything on and you have like all these random small payments coming out and you've lost track. So you need to keep track of your balance sheet, money in, money out, your CEO of You Inc. I probably spent more time on this than I should have, but it's so important. It's so basic, and you're not going to understand your finances unless you do it. So if you haven't started already, if you've started and you've given up, you start giving up. Now we're a new month, start again. And again, find a way to keep track where it's easy for you. My husband and I found a way that it works for me, for us. You might have another system. Maybe you're better at night. Maybe you're more of an evening person and you could do this as you're watching TV, for example. So that's number one, be CEO of You Inc. What's your balance sheet? What's your budget? Number two, ask yourself, once you do that, ask yourself, and this is a hard question, do I make enough money to sustain my lifestyle? I have had so many talks with women over the past year, especially there've been a lot of industries that have been laying off. I just ask the question, do you make enough money? And as women, we have a problem with salaries. We don't like going after what we're actually worth. And we need to start doing it because the guys are doing it. One problem that we have, whatever job you hold, let's say everybody's here a salaried employee, whatever job it is that you hold, you're making a certain income. Are you earning your market value? When women go job hunting, we have this thing where we look at a job posting and we want to make sure that before we apply, we have to check off every box, every single box. Guys, when they go job hunting, they'll go for the interview if they kind of sort of match the description. Fluently bilingual, I barely speak French, but you know what? I'll apply anyway and see what happens afterwards. We have to go for it. We have to go for it and think about what's the worst that could happen. The worst that's going to happen is you don't check off every box, you have an interview, and it doesn't work out. Big deal. Move on to the next. But you have to ask yourself, am I making enough money to sustain my lifestyle? Sometimes it's just as simple as you don't make enough money. And everybody's answer to this is different. But the only way you're going to know is if you follow number one and know where your expenses are going. What's the money in? What's the money out? What's next? Number three, and I put this specifically for number three ahead of a couple of other things. Plan for retirement. Plan for retirement. I know that in a lot of lists they say, debt management and put money aside for an emergency fund first. I'm out from a different school of thought. Plan for retirement first. You know why? Because someday you're going to retire, whether you're forced to or whether you choose to. And I believe that if you start with planning for retirement, you can work backwards from there. It's hard to imagine when you're younger, but trust me, as someone who lives kind of like an old life, and my husband's older than me, I'm so happy that we've had these conversations because now we could plan, all right, when could you stop working? When could I stop working? And so again, if you haven't thought of retirement yet, it's the best starting point so that you can work backwards from there for all your other financial goals. So plan for your retirement. I'm not going to get into a whole thing about it. If you haven't looked into it, it's something you should consider. How old are you? How many years do you have until what they call retirement age, which is age 65? Like I used to think that I was going to work until I was 80 years old. I'm 43. I'm ready to retire in the next few years. I'm just done. And when I say retire, I don't mean, not working at all. But if I work, it's because I choose to. So no, I'm not going to be working like 80 hours until I'm 80. I don't know what I was thinking, but we all think we're invincible. And then, you go through life and you're like, oh, why should I? So plan for retirement. Number 4, save, but especially invest. So there's this thing, pay yourself first. Okay, that's great. Pay yourself first, put money aside first, but make sure you invest your money. Make sure you invest your money because otherwise the money that you see that you've put aside is just going to be the money you've put aside. And there's no interest, no return on it. We've all heard that expression, have your money work for you. It's not going to work for you if you put your money aside and that's it. So make sure you save by paying yourself first, but especially invest your savings. And again, I'm not going to get into a whole thing about, how to invest and whatnot. If you have a fear of investing, if you've never done it, if it's one of those things on your list of things to do, learn like yesterday. Get the basics and take action. Do it. If you've never done it before, work with someone. Like, you could always reach out to me. There's so many videos or whatnot online. Don't think too hard about it. There are lots of investments that are very easygoing, that are very passive, that do, well, start with that. You have to start with something. See a little change, see a little growth, see how you react before you could jump the gun. Right now, for example, some of you who are in investing or watch investment news, Bitcoin has done really, really well. I know the history of Bitcoin and how they trend. What I find fascinating is that I have a lot of women who've never invested before, but then they DM me. They're like, "Should I invest in Bitcoin right now?" And it's like, no, honey, you can't just jump into the deep end right away. Don't listen to social media. Don't listen to the headlines. There's a reason why Bitcoin's doing well. There's a reason why markets are doing well. Just start with baby steps. And then once you're ready, you could go more aggressive or more volatile, because Bitcoin and other similar types of investments are really, they're really aggressive, really volatile. Anyway, so put money aside, but especially invest your savings. The younger you are, the more time you have. You want to have your money start working for you, especially if you're single, because you're going to need that extra money, even more so than when you're in a relationship, because it's just you. Why do I like doing the managing money when you're solo? Because it's just you. So all your financial decisions, good or bad, they land on your shoulders. So investing is something that everyone should do, but especially when you're single, because you have to have your money working for you. Something that I've brought up in the past is learning how to sacrifice for like a couple of years. Don't go on the vacations. Don't do just work, put money aside, invest. Work, put money aside, invest. You're going to see that your money is going to grow. And then eventually, if you're someone who likes to take vacation, instead of putting money aside for vacation, what you could do is start going on vacation with the interest you made or the returns you made on your investments. And then what happens when you see that is you might get a little bit obsessive, like how I am. You'll see the return, but now you're like, no, wait a second. I want to leave the money there. I don't want to go on vacation anymore. I like this, and you want to keep it going. It's just a different mentality. Number 5, something I always bring up. It's going to sound like a sales pitch. It's not a sales pitch. It's a real thing. Protect your income. So there are 3 main ways to protect your income. Number 1, employment insurance. For those of you who are salaried employees, in Canada, we have an employment insurance program. If you are sick, the federal government will cover you for up to, they've just changed it recently to 26 weeks. It used to be 15, so now it's 26 weeks. Here's the catch. You're only insurable for up to $63,000 a year. So if you earn more than $63,000 a year, you're not covered for the difference. And the other kicker is that you're only covered for up to 55% of your income. So again, everybody here has varying incomes. If you're someone who makes over $63,000 a year, you're only covered to that threshold, and you're only covered for 55% of your income, which equals $668 a week. So if right now, if there's anybody in this room who earns more than 63 grand a year, and you go on EI, the max you're getting is $668 a week. You have to ask yourself, can I live off of that? If you don't, the next thing you have to do is check through your employer, how their disability program works. How long, first of all, do you have it? Do you have short, long-term disability through your employer? How much do they cover? And if you don't have employment, if you don't have disability insurance through work, you could get a disability insurance privately. No disability insurance is going to cover you for more than 75% of your income. That's like for me when I do a disability insurance analysis, we're not allowed, we have to take everything into consideration. You cannot be covered for more than 75% of your income. Why? Because then everybody would take disability insurance and just go on disability. The point is, on disability, you make less than you actually earn. If you are self-employed and you have no salaried income, look into getting disability insurance. And again, it's related to your income. So if your business doesn't really generate a lot of income, it might not be something that could work for you. But if you have a viable business and you have revenue, this is something to look into, because again, if you're running a business and something does happen to you, you're going to be one of these people who continues to work. My old hairdresser, I remember I went to go see her, and she had a walking cast. She had broken her foot outside of Walmart. She fell on some ice and she broke her foot. She didn't have disability insurance, something we talked about, but she didn't listen to me. And she's a hairdresser with a broken foot, but still working because she has to work. So don't be like my hairdresser. So look into that. How disability insurance works is that it pays you usually monthly, and there are different options. So depending on the rest of your depending on the rest of your financial situation, one of the questions is how long could you wait without receiving any income? So you have options of waiting 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, etc. And how much do you need? It's always based on a need. You can never be covered for more than 75% of your income. Also, the coverage that you get depends on the type of work that you do. Obviously, if you're someone who's in construction, your premiums are going to be more expensive than someone who is a salesperson, for example. Okay, so that's number 2 under protect your income. And then there's critical illness insurance. Critical illness insurance provides a lump sum tax-free payment upon diagnosis of a critical illness. Most companies, they cover about 25 or 26 critical illnesses. The main ones are heart attack, stroke, life-threatening cancer. It also covers MS, dementia, kidney failure. There's a whole list of them. How much critical illness insurance should you get? Usually it's based on your income. And the question I always ask is, do you need half a year's income or a full year's income? Now, if I look at the room, the stats are there. 1 in 4, I think 1 in 3, I think. 1 in 3 Canadian women at some point in their lifetime will be diagnosed with breast cancer. And if you've never experienced this yourself, or you don't know anyone who's been through it, it's hard to go to work. You need the time off. So it's a lump sum payment. You don't necessarily have to use it, for your treatment. You can do whatever you want. I know someone who had critical illness insurance through work and took it privately. They were diagnosed with MS at the age of 40. Now they were still able to work, but because they received the diagnosis, he received that lump sum payment. It helped, over time. It helped with the medication, because the medication isn't initially automatically processed when you go to the pharmacy. So I think it was like $5,000 a month. So it helped with like the first 1 or 2 payments before the reimbursement came. This was back in the day where you had to mail in your receipts as opposed to online. But one thing he did do was he took his family on vacation. He took some time off and he took his family on vacation. He was never able to, and he's like, I don't know how bad this MS is going to get. Let's do this. Let's do this and see what happens. If you want to know how much it is, I've used myself as an example. I'm not healthy, so don't. If I was healthy, as a 43-year-old woman, non-smoker, if I wanted coverage up to age 75, it will be about $60 a month. For $40,000 of coverage. So going back to in the beginning, I opened up with if I earn $80,000 a year. So let's say after analysis, I need 6 months of coverage, so half a year. We're talking about $60 a month. But that's if you're healthy. I wouldn't qualify for that. Now it would be a lot more expensive. If you think it's easier to just put that money aside, it'll take you 666 months to come up with $40,000 on your own if you just put it aside. And if you're thinking, oh, I'll just put $60 a month in a TFSA and I'll invest it, it'll take you 23 years of putting $60 a month aside in whatever account at an average return of 7% annually to come up with $40,000. And that's if nothing happens to you along the way. Okay, it's so important because I know too many people who've been diagnosed with cancer and so on and so forth. Some of you know that I've had heart issues. I've had angina attacks. So I'm on when I go to whenever I end up in the ER at the Glen, it's like carte blanche. They take me in right away because I have it as priority in my file. She's had angina attacks, take her blood pressure, whatnot. At first I loved it, because it's nice to go to the ER and take you right away. But then it's also scary at the same time. So protect yourself. We all think we're invincible, but we all know women who we know those stories. Oh my God, she was so young. Oh my God, she used to work out. Oh my God, she doesn't drink, she doesn't smoke. We all have those stories. So make sure you protect your income because no matter what, your bills still have to get paid. And when you're alone, they have to be paid by you. When you're with a partner, you can have that conversation. You can have that conversation with them and like, okay, babe, I can't work, I'm sick, let's see what we could do. Can you help me pay these bills? When you're alone, you don't have that. So you have to make sure that your income is protected because your rent needs to be paid, your mortgage needs to be paid, you need to eat. If you're sick, you might have to sign up to one of these meal plans. You might need transportation because you can't drive. So all these things cost money. The last thing is plan 10 years ahead. So point number 3 was plan for retirement. Number 6, when you're on your own, plan 10 years ahead because you want to give yourself that buffer. Again, when I mentioned, plan for retirement, sometimes we're at an age where we don't want to think about retirement. Like we have so many years ahead of us. And then fast forward to that moment, you're in your 40s, you're in your mid 40s or 50s or mid 50s, and you're like, this is it. I'm here. I've arrived. Can I retire? Always plan 10 years ahead to give yourself that buffer in case something happens or in case you change your mind. A lot of times we get stuck somewhere because of money. Why do we stay at a job that we hate? Probably because it either pays really well or has really good benefits. Why don't we take more vacation? We want to go on vacation more because we don't have the money or we can't take the time off of work. Why are we stuck renting when we really want to purchase a home? Like that's something you really want to do, usually because of money. Plan 10 years ahead. Because again, you're alone. You want to have that buffer. It's important for everybody to manage their finances, but it's especially important when you're by yourself, because it's just you. And like when I look around, most of my girlfriends are single. They're some are single, like no kids, no, not even not even a possibility of being with someone. Others are single with kids and whatnot, and it's all on your shoulders. And they all worry about the same thing. They're all like, if something happens to me, no one's going to see. Like, what if I have a heart attack at home? Like, no one's going to see. No one's going to care. No one. This came up a lot during COVID, and these are real situations. But no matter what happens to you, your income, it all lies on you. So it's so important to plan ahead. And yes, we joke around about it, but it's true. And if you look statistically, so in Canada, and I'll end with this. In Canada, the number of single men and women is pretty much the same across the board until your mid 40s. Once you get to your mid 40s, the number of single women shoots up. Some of it is because of divorce. Some of it is because of the death of a partner. but it shoots up drastically, and then even more so at age 65. But imagine at age 45, let's say you are married and your spouse passes away, and this has happened to people that I know. It's tough. And so it's so important, but it all starts with my point number one. You have to keep track. You have to know where your money's going, even more so than when you're in a relationship, because it's all on you.